Norfolk Southern has always been an innovator in the rail transportation business. In fact, we're proud of our accomplishments and consider ourselves to be the thoroughbred of the railroad industry. Our vision is to be the safest, most customer-focused, and successful transportation company in the world. As such, we are constantly seeking new and better ways to conduct our business, especially if we can improve safety and performance. That's why we're introducing the new Trinity panel turnout car. Improved safety and performance is what our new panel turnout car is all about. Previous panel cars were limited to carrying only one switch at a time, or with guns required a locomotive crane to unload multiple switches. They were time-consuming to load and unload. Designing a new car allowed us not only the opportunity to improve performance, but also improve the safety conditions for the men that operate these cars. Building an improved panel car that would be easier to load, capable of transporting multiple switches, safer to unload in the field, and would reduce the time needed to perform these operations was the mission of the Panel Turnout Committee and Trinity Manufacturing, who, working together, designed and built our new panel turnout car. The new A-frame turnout car is capable of transporting one number 15 or one number 20 switch at a time. Smaller switches, 10s, 9s, or 8s, can be carried two at a time. Switches are loaded on the car at the fab plant. The switches are lifted onto each side of the A-frame structure. Workmen secure the switches with chains and ratchet binders. Since multiple switches can be loaded and transported at one time, productivity and car utilization are greatly improved. Productivity is also improved at the unloading site because it's no longer necessary to have a crane on site to unload. The new panel car allows switches to be unloaded using a backhoe. This is a tremendous time-saving feature because you can use equipment that is more readily available. Simplicity of the car's design is excellent. There are no hydraulic systems aboard and very few moving parts, so maintenance is very easy. The A-frame structure is the main feature of the load-bearing components. It's tall enough to support our largest number 20 switches. It's also wide enough that personnel can safely walk inside it between the loaded panels to position the cable chain lines during unloading. Two cable supply reels are mounted on a line tensioning shaft which runs lengthwise through the A-frame structure. Cable chain line tension is controlled at one end of the car using the braking system and a large line tensioning wheel. The braking system design is such that a switch can be held completely airborne with no more foot pressure on the brake pedal than you would need to stop while driving your car. Even though operating the braking system is safe and easy, you should become familiar with it prior to any unloading activity. The heart of the braking system is a drum and disc brakes that are enclosed in the brake system housing. The brakes are operated by means of a foot pedal. There is a safety locking pin that locks the pedal either up in the free position or down in the stop position. The line tensioning wheel is used to control tension on the cable chain lines. The tensioning wheel is mounted on a stainless steel shaft that slides in and out of the brake system housing to engage and disengage the wheel. A toggle locking key locks the wheel in either the engaged or disengaged position. The unloading process begins with an on-site job briefing where the supervisor assigns his men certain functions to perform.
Okay, men, we need to unload these switches from a new panel turnout car. This is the first time you use this car, so it's very important that you fully understand how we'll be doing this job and what each of you will be doing. First, we need someone to act as a signal man during the entire operation. Billy, how about you doing that? We'll bring the backhoe into the position along the side of the car. We'll need a man to operate in the tension and brake controls. Pat, I want you to do that. 2 men will be responsible for handling the cable and chain lines. Mike, you and Marlon can do that. And Pete, you'll be the operator in the backhoe. The first thing that needs to be done is to hook the tension lines to the switch and tighten them to make sure that the switch does not move when the retaining chains are removed. Pat and Mike and Marlon will need to mount the car using the ladders on either end of the car. Mike and Marlon will go inside the A-frame and loosen the cable and chain lines and place them outside between the top rail and the middle rails on the prog section and over the top rails on the switch point section. Pat, you'll go to the brake tension controls, unlock the brake by removing the brake pedal locking pin, engage and lock the tension wheel, and loosen the tensions on the cable and chain lines. Mike and Marlon will come out of the A-frame and get in the clear. Larry and Bob will secure the chains with the bottom of the rail. Once the chain lines are properly secured, notify Billy, who will then signal Pat to tighten the lines. Pat will turn the tension wheel until the lines are tight against the switch. Pat, when you get the lines tight, you need to hold pressure on the brake pedal. Do you understand, Pat?
Yes, sir.
Also, pull the tension wheel out and lock it in a disengaged position. Next, Bob and Larry will loosen the retaining ratchets and remove the retaining chains. Put the ratchet and chains in the toolbox on the car, dismount from the car and get in the clear. Billy, when you see that everyone is in the clear, fasten the backhoe to the switch for the chain. The switch end of the backhoe chain should be secured to the bottom of the rail switch. When you're ready and in the clear, signal Pat and the backhoe operator to unload the switch. Pat will hold pressure on the brake pedal while he pulls the bottom of the switch off of the car. As the backhoe continues to pull the bottom of the switch outward, Pat will ease off the brake and lower the switch to the ground. Once the bottom of the switch is on the ground with the switch leaning against the car, Billy will signal the backhoe operator to stop pulling. Bob and Larry will unhook the cable lines from the switch and get in the clear. The backhoe operator will pull the switch clear of the car. Once the switch is clear of the car, Pat will engage the tension wheel and reel in the cable chain. Okay, men, what do we need to consider to do this job safely?
Okay, everybody watch me now. I'll be giving signals. We won't move nothing until everybody's in the clear.
Let me ask Pat, Pat, when I pull the panel off the car, do I understand you have it secured with a cable system where it can't turn over?
Yeah, that's correct.
Once the switches are on the ground, we'll have Mike and Marlon to go back on the cars and secure the chains to get it ready for transport. Once the lines are secured, Pat will put the pin back in the brake pedal in the stop position and lock the tension wheel in the disengaged position for transport. Gentlemen, the most important thing on this is to make sure that we have the chains and the cables over top the rail and secured before we ever take the binders off, because if we don't, and he goes to pull it off, that switch will turn over on you. Does everybody here understand that? All right, let's go to work.
The key functions during unloading are line placement, line tensioning, brake operation, restraint chain and line handling, and ground equipment operation. To ensure the safest possible operation, the foreman or supervisor will coordinate all movement during the unloading process. The unloading process begins with the line placement and tensioning braking personnel boarding the car. The men responsible for line placement walk inside the A-frame structure to the cable supply reels. The line tensioning and brake system operator takes his position at the tensioning wheel end of the car. Next, the tensioning operator will lock the tensioning wheel in the engaged position and remove the locking pin from the brake pedal. Once the locking pin is removed, the line positioning personnel inside the A-frame structure pass cable chain lines outside the A-frame. The foreman then signals the tension brake operator to reel out the cable, lowering the chains over the switch. This is done by turning the tensioning wheel, feeding the cable lines off the cable supply reels. Enough cable is fed off the reels to allow the line handlers to place the lines over the top of the rails, over the outside of the switch, down to the bottom rail where the chain end of the lines are secured around the bottom rail. The foreman moves the backhoe into position. Once the cable chains are secured to the switch, the employees responsible for line positioning inside the A-frame must get off the car and move to safety. Then, the foreman signals the tension brake operator to tension the lines. This is done by rotating the wheel until the lines are tight against the switch. Then he locks the tension on the lines by applying pressure to the braking system foot pedal and inserting the locking pin. The tensioned cable chain lines keep the switch from tipping over once the restraint chains are removed. This step is absolutely critical to safely unload the switch and must be done before the restraint chains that hold the switch in place during transport are loosened. The tension brake operator must also lock the tensioning wheel in the out or disengaged position to prevent it from turning rapidly when the switch is offloaded. Once the lines are tight against the switch, the tension brake operator signals the foreman, and he in turn lets the line handlers know that it's safe to remove the restraint chains. The chain locking ratchets are reversed, backed off, and the restraint chains removed. The ratchets and chains are placed in the toolbox on the tensioning wheel end of the car. At this point, the foreman connects the backhoe chain to the bottom rail of the switch, checks that everyone is in the clear, then signals the tension brake system operator and the backhoe operator to unload the switch. The backhoe pulls the bottom of the switch away from the car while the tension brake operator gradually releases the brake pressure and lowers the switch to the ground. At this point, the switch will be on the ground but should be leaning against the car. The foreman disconnects the backhoe chain from the switch, and the backhoe moves into position to pull the switch clear of the car. The foreman signals the brake system operator to release the brake and release the tension on the lines. Next, the line handlers disconnect the cable chain lines from the switch. The foreman signals the brake system operator that the lines are clear, and he reels the lines in away from the switch. The line handlers must get in the clear, and then the foreman signals the backhoe operator to pull the switch away from the panel car. With the switch in the clear, all of the ground personnel move to the opposite side of the car, and the same procedure is performed again. It's important to know that the panel car can be moved a short distance if necessary, with only one side loaded. However, with weight on only one side of the car, it is not safe to move over long distances, and any movement under this condition must be done under a slow order of not more than 25 miles per hour. With the switch unloaded, the line placement personnel re-enter the A-frame structure, and the tensioning operator raises the cable chain line so the line handlers can secure the chain ends to the car for transport. The brake tensioning operator disengages the tension wheel by pulling its shaft out of the brake system housing, flips the toggle locking key into the locked position, and locks the brake pedal in the stop position with the locking pin. Once all this is done and the men are safely off the car, the foreman can instruct the engineer that it's safe to move the car. Our new panel unloading car has been designed to allow the safe transport and unloading of turnouts in the field much quicker with less equipment. And its simple design requires much less maintenance. Regardless of how well any piece of equipment is designed, it is only as safe as the men who operate it. Remember, no job is so important, no service so urgent that we cannot take the time to perform our work safely.